Tonight, One with the Beard, we're reviewing Lockup, along with the Breakout expansion. Lockup is a worker placement game for 1 to 5 players. The goal is to get the most points by the end of 6 rounds. Each round is broken up into 3 phases. The first phase is the meat and potatoes of the game, which is called the roll call phase. And players will select a location on the board that they currently don't have any crew members, and they will assign any number of their crew members to that location. And they don't have to put all of them face up. Each round, players are allowed to put 2 of their crew members face down, hiding what crew members they sent to the location. And this matters because it adds a fog of war, if you will, during gameplay, so you're not entirely sure who sent who where. And that matters because once all players have passed by placing all of their crew members out on the board, each location is resolved, and the player who sent the crew with the most strength, which is the sum of all the numbers on the crew members, will win the prize at that location. And the second phase is the lights out phase, where we resolve each location. And what do all of these different locations grant you? Glad you asked. The exercise yard, you get a power cube. I think that's what they call them, I don't know. You add that to your power board, and now your crew member that has the little fist in the corner, his strength is equal to the number of cubes on the power section on your player board. So everyone starts with a printed cube, but now this guy has 2, so now he has a strength of 2. So you go to the exercise yard and you get swole. Here at the sewers, you get green cubes. Here at the infirmary, you get blue cubes. Here at the smithy, you get gray cubes. Here at the commissary, you get any cube that you want, and you always choose gold because that's the only way you can get gold, and it's hard to get gold. And then at the chow hall is where you can get some goons. And the goons are pretty cool because some of them give you special abilities, or they're kind of like a set collecting thing. For instance, this guy just gives you straight up points. This one gives you a victory point for each barrel that you have. You know, this gentleman down here, the dwarf, the more dwarfs you have, the more points you get. So it adds another layer to that onion of strategy. And here at the cell block is the whole reason you're collecting all of these different cubes is to turn them in to build these items. And this is likely the way that you will gain most of your points, is by crafting these items. And once you craft these items, they will give you points immediately. And then some of them will even give you like a special cube, or they may have certain icons on them which will usually correspond with those goons that you could get to get you extra points at the end of the game. And the library here is where you get tome cards. Now, that's the one location that you can't just send some of your crew members. Remember how I said you can get outbid at some of the locations if you have a lower crew strength than others? Now, if you ever don't get anything at a location, that crew member is actually sent to the library. And the player with the greatest sum at the library can get their hands on some of these very valuable and handy tome cards. And they have all kinds of special abilities that can kind of change up gameplay and allow you to sneak up and maybe shiv or shank. Is it the shiv or the shank that do you shiv somebody with a shank? Is the shiv the noun and the shank? Unfortunately though, when you're collecting these rewards from some of these locations, sometimes the goons have caused suspicion at the certain locations, and when you win those locations, you collect the suspicion unless you happen to have sent your lookout to that location, which makes you not available to collect the suspicion. And you don't want these suspicion cubes because once all the suspicion cubes are gone and you can no longer replenish the board where suspicion cubes are needed, there is what they call a raid, and pretty much you get reamed out of some points if you have the most suspicion cubes. So you kind of want to keep check on that. Getting a couple suspicion cubes here and there isn't going to make you or break you, but if you keep getting too much suspicion, the guards will be out and say goodbye to some precious points. And then the last phase is the patrol phase, which is basically upkeep. There are 3 special scoring cards for in-game scoring that players will be thinking about in the back of their mind. One of which will be an instant scoring card, which that will be like a threshold or like an achievement that once a player reaches that, they will get that instant card instantly and get the points for it. Another one will be a leader card, so usually it's like have the most of this or have the most of that, and then that can switch hands between players during the game and can change by the end of the game. And then the last type is in-game scoring, which will obviously be scored at the end of the game, but that one will have different goals, like have the most, for instance, this one is have the most leftover resources. So that will be resolved at the end of the game. But the game comes with a whole bunch of those, so you get to mix them all up, adding a little extra replay value each time you play. And what's this little board over here? That is the Breakout expansion. During setup, you'll shuffle these little tokens here, and you will put one at each location, and then you'll flip these bad boys over, and some of these are actually ways that you can tunnel through the catacomb board over there. These ones with the red X's here, these are closed down ones. If you win the location and you happen to have sent your seeker there, then that allows you to advance on the catacomb board. And the catacomb board is great because it's a way to get awesome extra points, and there are some treasure chests that you can open up, and they give you things you would expect, such as extra points or extra cubes, but it also adds that legend deck, and that legend deck can be pretty fun and entertaining when you're resolving those extra cards at the end of each round. So that is Lockup with the Breakout expansion. If you're familiar with the channel at all, you know I'm a huge fan of Thunderworks games and all of the games that take place in the role-player universe. And this game is no exception. This game is fantastic. This game really includes everything I love in a game. The production is amazing. The art is great. I love worker placement games and I love bluffing games. And this kind of like smashes those two things together. The rule of being able to put down two of your workers face down at a location, just really puts it over the top on a worker placement game. I'm surprised, to my knowledge, I don't know of any other games that utilize a rule like. And the base game comes with plenty of content to keep it fresh too, with all the different scoring options, which is kind of a thing that Thunderworks seems to squeeze into these role player games like Cartographers and stuff, has all these different scoring elements to kind of keep it fresh every time you play it, which is really awesome. It totally gives you way more bang for your buck because you can play it more and it doesn't feel the same every time you play it. And it's that neat mechanic too of getting outbid and getting those tomes. So sometimes you may just throw a chip out there knowing that you're going to get outbid, maybe even put it face down, a low one. Somebody might think it's a big one, they might get scared off, so you might win that location. Or even if they go there and they beat you, being able to get knocked down and get those tome cards, that's awesome too, because they can really help you out throughout the game. The Breakout expansion is great. Is it necessary? I would say it depends on how many players you're playing with. With 3 and 4 players, I love the game at 3 and 4 players. I like the game at 5 players. However, I feel like the board and all the spaces are a little too tight in my opinion. Now, if you add in that Breakout expansion, having the Seeker token, just that one extra token, to me, it feels like it opens the play up so much more. So if you plan on playing this game with 5 players, I would say that the Breakout expansion, I don't want to say is a must, but I would highly recommend it, which I recommend it for all player counts, but especially if you're playing it with 5. And it doesn't add that much more complexity to like the teach, because the game's fairly easy to teach. Despite that though, I have myself, I don't know why, I have had a little bit of AP while playing this game. I think, just trying too hard perhaps. I usually don't have too much of that problem, but for some reason this particular game sometimes brought it out in me a little bit. I didn't really notice it too much with other players, but I think maybe I just have overthought it every time I played it. But it is an enjoyable experience every time I played it. It's never failed me. It's always been a great hit with everyone that I've taught it to. Back to the Breakout expansion though. My favorite thing though about the Breakout expansion is the legendary deck. It's so cool. Just kind of little simple twists or simple goals each round. I think that was a really nice addition. So like that, along with the catacomb board, plus just adding more of a good thing is always a good thing. So I do recommend the expansion. I wouldn't say it's 100% necessary unless you're playing with 5 players, but I mean, it's such a great game. I can't really see a reason not to get it anyways. But in conclusion, this game is totally sweet. Pick it up, highly suggest it. Definitely staying in the Beards collection. And if you do, you can fit the expansion as long as you throw away the insert, which is not the greatest insert, but who likes inserts? I store my games vertically like a monster, so inserts don't do me any good anyways. So anyways, you throw away that insert, you can fit the expansion and the base game in the base game box, leaving more room for more games. If you found this episode entertaining or informative, please consider clicking that subscribe button, and thanks again for watching another episode of Rolling with the Beard.